When I was younger, I used to dream of having the kind of friends who would always show up, no matter the time, no matter the place. Not just acquaintances or people who came around when it was convenient, but real friends, the kind you could call family without hesitation. Some people are lucky enough to grow up with that circle already formed around them. For me, it took years, a lot of trial and error, and plenty of nights wondering if I'd ever find them. But I did. And when I say I wanted all four and I got them all, I mean it in the truest, cleanest way possible. For friends who changed my life forever. This story begins in Chicago, Illinois, on a chilly spring morning when the city was still rubbing sleep out of its eyes. I was standing at Union Station with a worn-out backpack slung over one shoulder, clutching a coffee I didn't really need, but was drinking anyway. My name's Daniel Carter, and back then I was 26 years old, working as a freelance photographer who dreamed more than he worked. I didn't know it yet, but that day was the start of something I'd remember forever. Chapter 1. The first one, Emily. I first met Emily Johnson at a cafe near Lincoln Park. She was the kind of person you noticed the second she walked in, not because she was loud or flashy, but because she carried herself like she had 100 stories she hadn't told yet. With her camera bag slung across her shoulder and hair tucked into a loose ponytail, she ordered black coffee and sat at the table across from me. At first, I wasn't going to say anything, but when she opened her laptop and the screen lit up with photo editing software, I couldn't help myself. "Are you a photographer too?" I asked. She looked up, smiled faintly, and nodded. "Trying to be. I mostly shoot portraits." "You?" That started an hours-long conversation about lighting, framing, and why we both thought capturing moments mattered so much. By the time we left the cafe, Emily wasn't just a stranger anymore. She was someone who made me feel less alone in my wandering dreams. Chapter 2. The second one, Marcus. Through Emily, I met Marcus Reynolds. He was her cousin, though they grew up more like siblings. Marcus was tall, with a booming laugh that could fill a whole room, and he worked as a software engineer in the city. When Emily introduced us, he shook my hand so firmly, I thought he might snap it in half. "You're the photographer?" he said. "Emily's been telling me about you. I'm Marcus. I don't know the first thing about pictures, but I know code like the back of my hand." That night we ended up talking about more than photography or programming. Marcus was one of those rare people who could make you feel like you'd known him forever, even if you'd just met him 5 minutes ago. He talked about his love for old-school vinyl records, his obsession with Chicago-style pizza, and his dream of building an app that could make art more accessible to kids in underserved neighborhoods. By the end of the night, I realized he wasn't just Emily's cousin. He was someone I wanted in my life, too. Chapter 3. The third one, Sarah. A few weeks later, Emily invited me and Marcus to a gallery opening in the West Loop. That's where I met Sarah Mitchell, a painter who had a style so unique it was impossible not to get lost in her work. Her canvases looked like explosions of color and emotion, like she'd taken the messiest parts of life and turned them into something beautiful. Sarah was a whirlwind of energy, the kind of person who hugged you the first time she met you, as if you'd been friends all along. She had this way of making every person in the room feel like they mattered, and when she talked about art, her hands waved around like she was painting the air itself. What struck me most about Sarah was how fearless she seemed. She talked openly about the times she'd failed, the paintings she'd ruined, the nights she'd doubted herself. And yet, she kept creating. She taught me that courage wasn't about never being afraid, it was about painting anyway. Chapter 4. The fourth one, Jason. The final piece of the puzzle came on a summer road trip. Emily, Marcus, and Sarah convinced me to drive with them to Nashville, Tennessee for a weekend music festival. I wasn't sure what to expect, but I knew I didn't want to miss it. That's where I met Jason Carter, no relation, despite the same last name. He was Sarah's childhood friend who had grown up in Nashville before moving to New York to chase a career in music management. Jason was calm, collected, and thoughtful, the kind of guy who didn't speak much, but always said something worth listening to when he did. During the festival, while everyone else was shouting lyrics and swaying to the music, Jason and I ended up sitting on the hood of my car, talking about everything from dreams to regrets to what it meant to build a life that mattered. He didn't just listen, he heard you. And that's rarer than people think. Chapter 5. All Four. From that point on, the five of us became inseparable. Emily, Marcus, Sarah, Jason, and me. We weren't just friends, we were family. We traveled together, created together, celebrated together, and picked each other up when things fell apart. We once drove from Chicago all the way to San Francisco, stopping in tiny towns most people overlook just to take pictures, paint murals, and listen to local bands in hole-in-the-wall bars. We made a pact that summer. No matter where life took us, we'd always come back to one another. There were challenges, of course. Marcus nearly lost his job once, and we all stayed up helping him brainstorm solutions until dawn. Sarah went through a heartbreak that nearly broke her spirit, and Emily painted with her in silence for weeks until she found her light again. Jason struggled with the uncertainty of the music industry, and we reminded him he was more than his career. And me? I battled self-doubt almost daily. But with them, I found my courage. With them, I didn't just dream, I lived. Chapter 6. What it means to want four. When I say, I wanted all four and I got them all, it's not about collecting people like trophies. It's about recognizing that sometimes in life, you don't just need one friend. You need a circle, a balance, a group that complements each other's strengths and fills in each other's gaps. Emily taught me to see the world differently, through a lens. Marcus taught me loyalty and laughter. Sarah taught me courage and creativity. Jason taught me to listen deeply and live with intention. And together, they taught me what it really means to find your people. Epilogue. It's been years since that first day at Union Station, but even now, when I look back, I realize how lucky I was. People search their whole lives for a circle like the one I found. I wanted all four, and against all odds, I got them all. And that made all the difference.